intelligent. We might want to remember this for years and years ahead.
You never know. There's a first for everything.
Yeah, we are due. We say a lot of things, so hopefully, maybe today's the day.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to let Joe in. We've got a couple more.
Right.
So, yeah. So, nice little turnout. I feel like it's nice to have not too many on these sessions. This is the first strategy session that we'll be running. Hi, Joe. And yeah, I feel like it's due because we're coming towards the end of the year. It's been a difficult year. Can everyone hear me all right, by the way? Yeah, it's been a difficult year. We've all been through a lot of changes, haven't we? And I just think that it's nice for us all to get together in a bit of an intimate environment. I know it's through the screen, but nevertheless,
yeah,
just kind of touch base as to where we all are at, and see if Tim and Paul can overcome some challenges that maybe you're all facing at the moment, or answer some questions that have been on your mind all year that you just can't seem to find the answer to. These two will find the answer. I feel very confident in them.
We will have answers. I don't know if they'll be the right one.
Exactly, yeah. But we'll go with that anyway. I mean, you know, A for effort and all that.
There'll be words. There'll definitely be words.
Right, there's 12 of us. I'll keep admitting people in as we go. What I'll do as well is some people's cameras are off, and that's fine if you want the cameras off. Welcome to those that we can't see. At any point, if you want to reveal yourself, then feel free. If not, we're not going to take it personally. And I don't mean in that way either. That sounded quite wrong. Yeah, we don't want any Zoom bombing today. And in terms of muting and things like that, I'm going to go with the flow. If there's any background noise at any point, I will mute you, so just be warned. But if not, let's kind of go with it and keep it quite relaxed, because you may have questions or want to interject. So that's kind of the format. I'm going to fire some questions at you that have been pre-sent over. We have got a lot to get through, so we might not, and I apologise in advance if we don't get to your question. But what I advise you to do is, perhaps if you haven't already, link in with Paul and Tim now on LinkedIn and connect with them, so that if your question isn't answered, or you do want to carry on the conversation afterwards, then you can do. And that is probably the best way to go. Right, shall we crack on?
Yeah.
We've got, right, I want to start with a question from Gavin Kemp from GK Photography. Gavin Kemp Photography is actually, give us a wave, Gavin, because he's in his studio. You can see his studio in the background there. So Gavin submitted a question saying, it's very easy to follow the crowd. Everyone reads the same books and listens to the same people. And from a strategic perspective, just become followers or me toos. So how do you become distinctive and make your mark by not following that strategic crowd? I think that's a really good question to start with, really. So I'll fire that one out to either of you.
Sorry, I'll crack on, Paul, and then you can do it. I'll get the concise bit over with in the beginning.
If you answer it, I'll add some padding. Yeah.
Wicked. I had two thoughts about that, Gavin. So the first one was, you're absolutely right. Like, noise is not the problem. Sameness is. Right, there's too many people doing the same stuff, right, that they are on repeat, and it's important to stand out. The first way I would suggest you do that is just be you, because there's only one version of you, right? Don't worry what other people are doing. Don't copy the trends, right? If people had more confidence in understanding their customer more than anybody else, and understanding what they want to do for customer, their proposition, their offer more than anybody else, I would stick with that. Like, and be brave about it, right? Carry on doing that thing. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Just do what you feels right for you and suits your customer. And the second one is a little bit more marketing theory. So there's two things that I want to bring in, and that's differentiation and distinctiveness. And these answer the question, how do we win in a market, right? So differentiation is, what are your points of difference? Get a notepad and list your point of difference, and make sure they're in anything public facing, right? It's just a point of difference, and what makes people choose you, or why are you different from other people who serve the same category, right? And then distinctiveness. If you're a photographer, this is really cool. So distinctiveness is how you're visibly different than other people, right? You create visible things, right? You're a photographer, you create visible things. So what can you do in your pictures that make you distinctive, right? Is there a filter? Is there an angle? Is there a topic matter that gets you to stand out distinctively? Another things with distinctiveness are things like slogans, logos, brand colors, shapes, and fonts that you can use, like the Just Do It swoosh and Just Do It slogan, and McDonald's arches and We're Loving It slogan, right? All these things add up into a recipe. It's a massive recipe of differentiation and distinctiveness of how you win. But you'll have all of those ingredients in your business anyway. You've just got to put them into a lovely marketing cake. I am done. Chappers.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go a step beyond that in the fact that what most people don't do is spend any time thinking. There is no thought behind marketing kind of at all. Weirdly, because marketing is the thing that connects us to money, most people are trying to do it for the cheapest, easiest, most accessible route possible. So people are screaming away on socials, they're banging the same old stuff, they're doing all that stuff that everyone else is doing. There is more noise now than there's ever been. There is more low quality noise now than there's ever been, because more people have had to enter the market that just didn't have to be there kind of 6, 7, 8 months ago whenever this kind of madness started. So loads of people that simply have no idea what they're doing, but have access to stuff are just shouting into the breeze. So kind of with a view to standing out to your prospect, you need to think kind of carefully, deeply, look for examples. But the question to answer is, what is the thing that you can do that is most likely to be seen by the people you want to see it by? And that leads into kind of video is brilliant for this. Joe's here somewhere. Wave, Joe. Where's Joe? She's just down there. Joe does brilliant direct mail pieces. Direct mail at the moment is absolutely bang on, because one, most people aren't doing it. Two, you can get onto someone's room, onto their desk, into their consciousness that you can't do in many other ways. And I think the big thing when it comes to standing out, particularly at the moment, you've just got to think. And it's weird. This is not like a long kind of process. It's what is more likely to get seen by the prospect I want to see. I want it to be seen. Just arrange that into a sentence. Is it shouting on social? Is it another email into their inbox? Is it a direct mail piece? Is it a video? And the interesting is, once you've done this once, you don't have to do it again and again and again. Once you've got that attention, let's just say you do some direct mail, it makes it then dead easy to go back to the broader stuff. So email, social, that sort of thing, because you've already got some attention. But I think, kind of for all of us here, that standing out, you've got to start with attention. And that takes some real thought. And again, there's loads of examples. Think about all the marketing that you've noticed, liked over the last X many thousand years. It all has a pattern behind it. Look for that kind of stuff. But more than anything, you've just got to spend some time thinking, what is the thing that I can do that is most likely to work? And then work out how that goes in your business. And again, there's people, people like Joe and Vicky, there's all kind of great people out there that can help with that kind of stuff. But it's got to start with some thought.
Good, I like that. And it's really simple, isn't it? It's kind of, Tim says, just start, just crack on and just start somewhere. And you're saying spend some time thinking, a lot more as well. But those two things, are really simple stuff. And it's just about just keeping, just starting somewhere and seeing where it leads a lot of the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, okay, great, thank you for that. Gavin, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. It's very interesting. The differentiation thing, yes, absolutely. There's the age-old thing with Theodore Levitt, differentiate on the grounds of absolutely anything, and that goes back to 1956. That I certainly get. Image content, yes. Style, absolutely doing the different. Marcoms, I think actually you're the first person, Paul, who said marketing is connected to money. That I've heard that said for a very long time, and you're absolutely right. And I agree with you. People try to do it for the least possible price, or at least those with the least money try to do it for the least possible price. Those high value individuals will actually spend money on comms and etc. because that's why they are who they are. DM, yes, I agree. People being away from the desk at the minute, I think, is a bit of a problem, and also receiving items into businesses. Anything I receive into here to shoot needs to be quarantined for 3 days just because of what it could carry. But yeah, I agree. In 6 months' time, DM. But yes, really useful. Thank you.
I think just on that, take the concept of it. That DM is only there because it's different from what they're getting elsewhere. It's not what they're seeing. What are other versions of that? It could well be a personal video. It could well be a personal video of the unboxing of what you would have sent them if you had their address and it wasn't it. Do you know what I mean? It's that concept. Something's got to get their attention first.
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting that cut through. Cool. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Gavin. So welcome to anybody who's just joined us a little bit later as well. So we've kind of cracked on with the first question from Gavin Kemp Photography, talking about kind of what sets you apart from the crowd really, and what you can do to set yourself apart from the crowd, which is kind of a good place to start, I think, with a session like this. Moving on then to the next question, we do have some post-grad students and also marketing and business students with us from Nottingham Trent University today. So hello people. I'm going to fire one at you, just so we've got a little bit of a different perspective as well. So this is a question, and I don't know if Benita, and if I've said that right or wrong, apologies if I've pronounced it wrong, but Benita is studying branding and advertising at NTU at the minute, and she wanted to ask you, apart from the pandemic and its effects on the economy, what do you think are the trends in the marketing field that would most likely affect someone just starting their career now? So apart from the pandemic and its effects on the economy, what do you think are the trends in the marketing field that would most likely affect someone just starting their career now?
I've got an answer for this because I've been asked it before, chappers. So shall I crack on?
I had an answer too, by the way.
Do all the practical stuff right afterwards. It'll be lovely. So I lecture at the other uni, marketing and shirt. Sorry, the other Nottingham uni. Apologies. No competition needed. But that's asked a fair bit, that sort of question, Benita. And there's a couple of things really. So there's in the macro marketing kind of environment, there's becoming a kind of a chasm that we refer to it in the courses we teach, that between marketing agencies, marketing freelancers and stuff who have got the utility model, so have as many retainers for as many people as possible, and they do really useful, decent marketing stuff for money, right? Because the people they serve don't have the time or inclination to, or resources to do it themselves, or knowledge or skills to do it themselves, right? So there's that side. Then there's the chasm, and on the other side of that is the creative industry, the creative agency, right? Somebody who thinks uber strategically, has long-term vision for that sort of thing. And I think there's an increasing gap between those people, the people who are able to do campaigns over the long term. And I'm talking 5, 10, 15 year kind of campaigns, because long term, like great brands are built over time. There's no quick fixes, right? And then there's short people who will do more short-term sales activations, more creative stuff, more very campaign outcome driven, right? So there's one that's activity driven and one impact driven, and there's a chasm on the side of that, right? And that's what's happening in the marketing industry at the moment. It's that gap between impact and activity. Do you like doing stuff? Do you like making stuff? Do you like putting stuff out into the world? Do you like checking kind of analytics and being performance focused? Or do you like the thinking? Do you like the creativity and the strategic stuff? There's two questions to ask yourself on that side. because one side is is being shown the tactification of marketing, and one is the other side of that, right? And it's up to you which side you go. They're both very useful in the marketplace, and they're both very useful and very successful businesses to be in, but the gap between them, it's harder for people to jump from tactification to strategy and creative now. And it's increasing, and it has been increasing for a couple of years. But that's my thoughts. Chappers, over to you.
Are we allowing tactification as a word?
It really is a word.
Is that okay? Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean,
I've already had that conversation with Tim and
We have.
Brick. Tactification.
The
It's an excellent word. I didn't know it before Tim used it. I have to, full disclosure.
Yeah, I mean, effectively, yeah, what Tim says, if you're looking at, you know, kind of things that will affect getting into the industry now, and kind of how I think that split there, I think there is also going to be a call, or whatever the right phrase is, for cool heads, because, you know, what we're seeing now is nothing new. Yes, the cause is not something we've anticipated, but we've seen this kind of happen. We've seen these crashes. We've seen business kind of do what it's doing at the moment, and, you know, in answer to kind of, you know, many questions, it's normal rules apply. You know, it is kind of, you know, marketing hasn't changed in the pandemic. It hasn't changed, or the rules for it haven't changed kind of forever. It is normal rules apply. And I think it will come down, you know, the people that can coolly look at these things. And we've seen plenty of examples over the last few weeks of people just kind of getting it wrong because they've jumped on something, they've knee-jerked, they've done perhaps what they think is right, but without that level of thought. And I think, you know, I think what Tim says, there is a choice about where you go, but I think, you know, particularly marketing leaders, you know, people that want to be leaders, I think there is going to be this cool, steady head part of it as well, which I think that is going to be a big part of kind of, you know, getting into marketing as we go forwards.
Great, I like that. Is that, I don't know if you're on camera, Vinita, but hopefully that answers your question, or if you want to add anything to that. Hi, hello.
Oh, yeah, that completely answers my question. And I think I've noticed the same, like the one part which is more creative and the one which is more analytic. So thank you.
Great. And I picked up on that as well, Tim, what you said at the beginning. I really like that about asking yourself 2 questions. Are you analytic, logistic, almost strategic in that sense as well, and tactic, or are you creative and strategic and want, you know, and that side of things? Because sometimes you are one or the other, aren't you? We had this discussion on your podcast, actually, didn't we, the other day? And I think it's kind of like some people are one or the other and they draw towards that side, and then other people are a mixture of the both. But I think what makes a great marketer is sometimes if you can combine the both, or at least even if you're uncomfortable with some elements of that, try and get comfortable with it, because the best marketers are the ones that tick all the boxes in some stretch of the word, I guess.
Yeah, that's it, right? So there's been some interesting content put out there. Mark Ritson did a thing called the Marketing Monster recently, where he put together the traits of the most successful marketer. It's on YouTube and Google and stuff, so just Google Ritson's Monster and you will find it. But it's interesting, that traits of what makes a successful marketer, right? So marketing changes all the time, right? We used to have, most marketers used to be what we called T-shaped, so we'd be able to talk about a broad topic but then deep dive in one particular specialism, right? But there's an ongoing battle now between T-shaped marketer or generalist, right? Generalist or specialist, and both, again, very much like the creative long-term strategy people and the people who are really good at the details and analytics and performance. You need both, right, to make a successful organization, a campaign. You need both. You can't have long-term without short-term, right? And you can't have an agency or an organization or a marketing department full of T-shaped people, and you can't have one full of generalists, right? You need both, but it's having the self-awareness and doing the work to figure out which one you are to make you most successful and happy in your career. Because I'm a big picture guy, right? If you give me a Google Analytics and AdWords campaign to do, technically I can do it, but I'm not the guy you want doing it, right? I'm just going to be angry about it.
And I think that transcends as well to any kind of business, not just in marketing, but as a business person or an owner, doesn't it? It's about identifying how you learn best. And, you know, I talk about this in my creativity workshops and training about how, you know, there's 3 different types of learners. You said you're a visual learner, Tim. I am too. As a creative, I learn a lot better when I see things visually, especially in colour. So if I see a PowerPoint presentation with some nice slides, I will definitely be a lot more engaged, for example. But you might be an auditory learner where you listen to podcasts, or you might be go to gym and you pop your earphones in and you actually listen to TED Talks, and that information goes in a lot better. So you could be a visual learner, you could be an auditory learner, kinesthetic as well. So if you like to actually get hands-on and actually get involved in projects, maybe that's how you learn best. So it's good to actually know the difference and differentiate between the 3, so you can identify which you are, and then you can follow that platform and path when you are learning and help your team as well. And especially if you're a leader, you can actually then help your team, because everybody in your team is going to be different, aren't they? So yeah, I think that's really interesting. Thank you, guys. So we'll move on to the next question then. So I don't know if we've got James with us, James Williams. He's a MBS postgrad school officer and a marketing student in his 2nd year. He actually asked, what books do you read and recommend? Which I like this question. So obviously there's going to be a ton.
Obviously my books are cracking read.
Yeah, well, God, there's so many. I mean,
as an overall really good book to read, Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh, which is Tony, I think it's Hseih. And that is kind of the brief synopsis. This is the guy that did Zappos shoes, one of the first guys to sell shoes online, which the world knew would not work because no one will buy shoes online. And kind of a handful of years later, 4 years later, they've sold it to Amazon for like 1.4 billion or 4.1 billion. I forget, insane amounts of money. That's really good, because the only money they had was to spend on customer service. And if you're only going to do one thing, just treat your customers really well. If you can only do that one thing. That is brilliant. Gary Keller, Papa Sam, what's that called, Tim? The one
question.
Yeah, the one thing. That one that Ian's got. Everyone look at Ian.
That one.
Holding the book. That's a real head smacker of a book. You know, you can pretty much read the first 10 pages and just go. And it's all kind of about that, you know, what's the right thing for you to be doing in your business? You know, what's the right, you know, again, back to the question from kind of Gavin's questions, what's the one thing that you could be doing that is most likely to move your business forward? But yeah, I mean, I could go on for days, but you know, if I had to pick 2 other than mine, obviously, if I had to pick 2, I would definitely go with Delivering Happiness and the one thing.
Right, I like also advocate those books, but I'm going to throw in 2 Seth Godin books, I think, just because, and one is proper old, and it's called Purple Cow, and it's about being remarkable, right? Being differentiated, what we were talking about with Gavin in the first question, actually. But I will put Purple Cow in there. It's super short and it's super cheap and it's super old, but it's like the basis principle of what makes a business successful. And a more later version from Seth Godin is This Is Marketing. It pretty much has the answer to any marketing type question, whether it's actual marketing, whether it's communication, whether it's brand, whether it's experience. He's got a lovely little diatribe in that book. So it has most of the answers that you will be looking for, I would say.
That's deliberate. I mean, again, I should read it again. I remember it's one of the kind of the best books I've read. I mean, it's been a long time, but I'd search out blogs like Mark Ritson is brilliant. 50 odd, who's that? Michael Owen, which Tim put me in touch with. I think it's the sort of thing when you start to look for these things, you'll see some of the, you'll read stuff, you'll like it, and then those authors go and kind of look and have a poke around there. They'll direct you to other sort of people as well. But yeah, those, I think that was James's question. Yeah, that would be a really good place to start, James.
Thank you. And I've got a question just to add to that on books, because these books are very sort of marketing based, aren't they? But would you recommend any of the books that aren't specifically kind of obvious marketing books, but would still help you in the marketing world? Maybe a bit sort of wild card books that you've maybe read or picked up on, that you've picked elements out of and you think actually you could really translate that to what you're doing in business in general. It might not be a specific marketing for dummies book, for example.
I mean, I would definitely read Shoe Dog, which is the Nike story, and I think it's called The Everything Store, which is the Amazon story. And they're just really interesting kind of things to see. Kind of how they're. And then there is a book that is kind of part business called Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? Which is Ben Hunt Davis, who's one of the rowers from GB Olympics 2000 Sydney. And I mean, half of the book is brilliant, half of the book is tedious. The bit that is not businessy about how they kind of push their crew forward and the stuff they tried and what they did and what they didn't do, that's really, really interesting. And again, loads and loads of business. I mean, in effect, the premise being is that, they wanted to win, they weren't winning, kind of set themselves the deadline of when they had to do it, the Olympic gold medal race, and, will it make the boat go faster? They just looked at all the things they could do and asked the question, is this going to make us quicker? If they thought it was, they'll try it. If they knew it wasn't, they'd bin it. So yeah, that's well worth a read as well.
Brilliant. So these are really kind of motivational and inspirational stories, aren't they? Which really help as well with your mindset and getting yourself going to give yourself that boost, I guess, to start, as you said at the beginning of this.
I do want actually throw a real left fielder in. I'm just going to put it in the chat. Yeah, it's from 1957. Right, it's from 1957, and it's by a guy called Ayn Rand, and it's called Atlas Shrugged. Right, and it's proper long, and it's really a novel, but it's about the industrial revolution of America and building railroads and stuff like that, and it's just jam-packed with lessons that are still true today. It's really it's definitely a novel, it's definitely a love story, but the business lessons in it are real. He makes some pioneering decisions, but it's amazing. The audiobook is also good. If you're not a massive long book reader like me, the audiobook is good.
I think just to finish that off, go and find books by people that have done. I read a lot of books about people that do ultra distance cyclists and all that kind of stuff, because I am that like-loving, tedious bloke. But all of these things, anyone that's done something really difficult, they've done it because they've done stuff differently. They've kind of approached things that other people won't. And there's always loads and loads of kind of lessons in there.
Absolutely. I think we've interviewed a few through RSViP recently, actually. So we've got Claire Brumby, check her out. She's particularly, she was on Dragon's Den. She didn't get investment, but she did go on there for investment for her vegetable crisp company, Scrubbies. She ended up selling it for over $1 million in the end, and she didn't need the dragons after all. But and it's now, I think, in 26 countries, her product. So she's killing it. But she started off in a very difficult, as they all do, very inspirational speaker, because she shares her story because she went through a very tough time and faced lots of challenges along the way. So Claire Brumby is a good one to check out, especially if you're looking to get into the food hospitality industry, because that's her niche. The obvious one for me, and the very first book I ever read on marketing was Simon Sinek's Start With Why. It's an obvious one and it's a bit cliche, but it's a damn good book, so I definitely say, and that kind of has taught me a lot of the foundations of what I do in marketing and business, or watch his TED Talk. And then moving on, I guess, to TED Talks, I think, are there any TED Talks that you would recommend, guys, for people to look at as well? Don't need to talk too much on this, but if there's anybody in particular that you think, oh, actually, gosh, you need to watch this. I mean, I really like Brené Brown. So I don't know if anybody's come across her, but she's a good one to check out, just to kind of get the ball rolling on that. But if you can think of any, pop them in the group as well, or if anybody else wants to. By the way, this chat is open to everyone, so feel free to share.
I would go for I love the TED Talk. I would go for Nancy Duarte and the shape of a great presentation, which will, if you have to present in any way to any sort of people, not keynoting, but like any sales presentation, I would check that out. And any of them by David J.P. Phillips, just because he's a proper ledge and entertaining. But David J.P. Phillips, I'll put them in the chat for people to have a look at. Brilliant.
Thanks, Tim. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Paul, but we can move on now if you've got
just trying to think, I mean, an old client of mine, a guy called Mark Wileman, who had a business called Sublime Science and sold out. He did one a while ago, and I think it was just about, you know, kind of really simply kind of testing and tracking and tracing kind of marketing and what works, and kind of, you know, the 80-20 stuff. And I only remember it because he texted me this morning. I texted him this morning and I kind of forgot about it. But yeah, I think, yeah, go and have a look at TED and just have a cruise around, because I find it, you know, one thing kind of leads to the next,
Absolutely, it does. TED Talks, and this is the thing, you can watch them or listen to them. So depending on what kind of learner you are, there's no excuse really. So yeah, let's go on to the next question then. So we've got Danny Stone, who is from Web Studio Lab Limited, and he's submitted a couple of questions. One of them is just sort of on the economy again at the moment, and it's a bit of a practical question. But he said, given the uncertainty at the moment of the economy, do you guys think it's a good time to borrow money in order to fund project ideas at the moment? You could sign a disclaimer that you're not going to be responsible if anything goes wrong.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. This is a really good time to not listen to me. Now would be a good time to make the decision. I think it depends. I mean, you know, let's look at the two sides of this here. You know, there's free money, there's very cheap money around. So, you know, from one perspective, yes, it can be. I think, you know, I think a lot of it comes into confidence of return. And again, this is way beyond kind of Tim's and mine kind of pay grade really here. But, you know, I think, Danny, you know, it depends on what you want to use it for. You know, probably my best advice is, if you've got a thing that you think you want to use it for, I would get an outside set of eyes on it. Before you do anything else, I would get an outside set of eyes just to kind of sense check it. And, you know, ask as many questions as possible, you know, and I do understand kind of fortune favoring brave and that kind of thing. And that is definitely often win more often than the people that talk about it. And I think, you know, for me, it would come down to the cold hard numbers of it. I'd get, you know, if enough people that you trust to not be kind of yes people think it's a good idea, if the numbers stack up, and if you think, well, okay, if it all goes horribly, horribly wrong, can I afford to service that money? Then, you know, as I say, you know, whilst the pandemic is here, it's no different from many things that we've seen before and sort of since. So for me, yeah, it comes down to the numbers on it, and comes down to getting kind of a real impartial outside person. Because we've all had that idea. We thought, this, Rodney, this is making me millions. And then someone else looks at it and goes, literally, no one needs a plastic teapot. Tim, you say stuff.
Okay. I very much echo what Chapman says, really. I would ask an accountant or IFA or such like, who will have a real answer. But I will add in time to start new stuff, especially in market competition ways, because a lot of people are still hunkering down or being tentative. So there's been, you can research on Google, in every recession or depression, there's people who properly win by doing stuff. And a bit of a shout out for whether it's borrowing or not, or getting funding for, I would definitely look at currently R&D tax credits, because my mate Ben does a lot of work from that, and the stuff you can get very good money for in R&D tax credits is very interesting if you reframe it. If you get somebody who knows how the forms work to reframe what you're doing as R&D tax credits, there's a bunch of money. He's just got, I think he farmed out 380 grand this month to like 4 companies, so he's good. And Innovate UK have got loads of business model or innovation, which is a broad term in this case, innovation related funding that is available, I would check those out as options as opposed to borrowing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice there, Tim, because the R&D side of things is definitely, I think, with what industry Dan is in, with web and tech, that is an industry that falls within the category of being potentially open to that. And so it's worth a chat to find someone like your mate who fills the forms out on the behalf of the person, and usually it's a free consultation with these companies, and they'll do it, and it's no obligation, but if they can get you anything, they take a commission, and that's how it kind of works.
Yeah.
So it's worth looking into that, being in the industry that you're in, Danny. And also there's lots of different options, isn't there? And we're, you know, as marketeers, we like to think we're creative. So it's worth thinking outside of the box a little bit in terms of how can you be creative to inject some money into your business without borrowing as well. Like there's so many different options out there, investment, crowdfunding. It really depends what you're actually looking for, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it's about actually switching that marketing button on and going, how can I get money in without actually getting into a massive amount of debt?
Yeah, that's it. That's a good point, actually, Fiona. So, like in all of the lectures, clients who have the fortune to have massive budgets, right? We always do marketing planning based on zero budget because you have to be more creative, right? Even if they've got like a couple of people have got like £1 million a year, right, that I work with, which is a bunch of money, and we never spend it. Right, but we always plan for zero budget because you have to do the work, right? You can't just chuck money at it, right? So I'm a big fan of zero budget planning anyway, even if you have budget.
I think just good point, to echo Fiona's point, the kind of the creativity, you know, think about other ways to get the money back. So I chatted to a guy yesterday. He's a very keen golfist. And he has decided his lockdown kind of purchase to himself is going to be a like an indoor screen kind of hit in, and we'll probably be the man to tell us about this. But yeah, so it's like an indoor range for himself, which he will buy via his business, and he will use it whenever he wants, and then he will just sell other time to those at the golf club. So he's got a golf club of people that know what everyone wants to play golf. They can't get out and do it. He's going to buy a thing. It's going to cost him something. He's buying it for himself. It's an investment. And actually, and there, you know, he will be able to sell it at, I don't know, 15, 20 quid an hour to a load of people that he already knows. So actually, whilst that may or may not cover the full thing, it will start to mitigate against that. And it's just, as ever, it's just a bit of thought can kind of take you into different places.
Definitely. I like that whole thing of plan for zero budget as well, because as somebody with a background in PR, who does PR all day long for my own business, as we all do, you know, if we're in business and we're self-employed, a lot of us wear 17 hats, and PR is one of those hats that we have to wear. And so, you know, in PR, we have to think about, okay, we've got zero budget. How do we throw ourselves out there? How do we raise our profile and keep ourselves visible without having to spend the money? Because you've got PR versus advertising, haven't you? And it's kind of like you can pay to be in a newspaper or or a magazine, but that will cost you X amount of money with no guarantee of what return you're going to get. You can invest money in a PR company, but then they'll work on your behalf to actually try and get you out in as many places as possible, or you can take on the PR yourself. So it's thinking like a PR person almost, with starting from nothing and seeing what you can get for nothing. Going back to the whole Del Boy thing, really, and Rodney, you know, let's get ourselves out there and and not have to spend a penny. So yeah, think like a marketer, think like a PR person. So yeah, great, I like that. Next question. Thank you, and hopefully, Danny, that answers that for you. If you're there, don't know if I can see you. Right, so I've got actually a question that's just been submitted, which I'm going to scroll back up to on the live chat, and it's from Ian Baker. So did Tim and Paul think that companies are getting lazier on understanding the pain that their product is trying to solve?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, I think inherently because we've had it good, right? The last few years, in general economic terms, I know some people have not had that journey, but if you look at the broadest angle, it's been pretty good, right? And technology has moved on. There's an app for everything, right? We've got stuff at our fingertips, and I think business people and even looking inward at my own sector, marketing people have become lazy because it's been easy to do activity without thinking of the impact it makes. And value creation is based on making impact, not on doing the amount of activity. So I think laziness is definitely a thing. And I think in looking at the pain gain situation, right, the problem solving, the customer need solving stuff, this is marketing 101 and brand 101 and experience 101. Hat tip to Victoria Taylor over there. But it's like the 101s, right? The basic rules of understanding the value you create for your customer and why they need it is just the basics. And it's been in marketing and in business, it's been forgotten because we've got elaborate things like TikTok and Instagram stories and Snapchat to occupy loads of our time and do loads of this stuff, which might not leave us the capacity or the thinking about doing the basic stuff, right, of which to grow on, like the foundational stuff. So I agree.
Yeah, I think people have just stopped asking themselves why, because they've got tools, because they've got TikTok, LinkedIn, because it's all there. No one's asking, why am I doing this? You know, so I'm speaking to a big haulage firm a couple of weeks ago, a bit longer, I'm sure now. And, you know, they're smashing out on Twitter and it's just pointless because none of their people are really engaging. But they think, oh, we're doing marketing. We are. No, you're not. No, you're just wasting up. You're kidding yourself. You're doing marketing. You know, they have everything they need. They've got the names, addresses, phone numbers of the 270 whatever people they've got to talk to. Write them a letter, turn them up in their, whatever it is. But just, again, back to what we said at the start, people are still trying to do this for the easiest route rather than the route, what is the thing we can do? And I think, you know, people just, they are just kidding themselves. And I think, you know, we have just got massively lazy because we kind of been able to, you know, it's never been easier to make more money because of the tools we've got. But people just think, oh, I've got a tool, I'll use a tool, without thinking, well, I'll use the tool to do this and then that and then this and that. And it's just, yeah, it's the short version. Yeah, I think absolutely people have got massively lazy, but it gives the rest of us a huge opportunity to not do that.
Yeah, and I think as well, Paul, great points there. And I think as well, the operative word here is lazy, but do we think it's distraction as well? There's a lot of noise, isn't there, out there?
I think it is, right? So it's a version of it, but I think if you're, for example, I'll give you a real life example without naming name of companies, right? I did some work for a legal firm, right? And they had a marketing team of about 8 people, all full time, right? Which is, not very good at maths, but 8 times 40 hours a week is quite a lot of marketing, right? That's a lot of marketing, right? That's a lot of marketing. Like, what are they doing, right? They just filled their time. They can't sit there and know, like they know for a fact, the data proves it, that 80% of their new business leads comes from doing this one thing. 80%, 86 in fact, right? And it has done for 5 years, right? But that thing takes them 13 minutes to do on a Monday, and there's 6 or 8 of them, right? So what else are they doing, right? They're just doing stuff, right? And they're doing, because it doesn't really matter what they're doing, because it doesn't really work, because the data proves it, they're just doing the easiest possible thing, which is 14 tweets a day, which is recording a quick video, right? Without any thought behind it, because it's easier to do, because they know this thing works, and this is why they've got a bunch of team. And people want, like in an organization, you want some reactive marketers, right? You want people to sort out a presentation and a PowerPoint and make a flyer and stuff, which is okay, it's useful, but it's not the proactive stuff. So yeah, I agree.
That's where strategy comes in, right? I guess, with, you know, actually sitting down and going, let's monitor this stuff so we're not wasting a whole heap of time.
But that's it, right? Like you know, the most effective stuff is the stuff that makes the highest impact. And that there's that old adage, right, that about a fact, Chappers might know who this is from, but and it's broken down, and they call out a guy who walks around the machine for a little bit and then hits it with a hammer and it starts working again. And he goes, right, that was £10,000. And he went, well, £10,000 for that? He goes, well, it's taken me 40 years to understand where to hit it with a hammer. And, you know, and that sort of thing. It's that strategic thinking, right? If that team spent 80% of their week thinking strategically about how to amplify the stuff that works and other stuff that might work, rather than just doing stuff, I think they'd be even more successful.
Tim and I bang on about on our videos. It's strategy over tactics. What, you know, why are you doing it? What do you want it to do? Then what are the things of doing it? But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we can say people are distracted, but it's not a real thing, because if your business growth is important to you, then you don't get distracted, you know. But it is, I think, you know, in answer, yes, I think they are lazy, and I get quite cross about it, but I feel a bit better now. I feel like it's a bit of a release for me. Thanks.
It's a bit of therapy session there. That's good. Victoria would like to add something. Oh, you're muted. Are you able? There we go.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, and I was just going to say about what Tim was saying about that, like, one thing. It's really interesting. So, like, a couple of weeks ago, I'd gone into a bit of a, you know, when social media gets very overwhelming and there's a lot of content and there's a lot of stuff, and I kind of sat back and I was like, you know, I'm just going to do something different for me. And I decided that I wanted to start doing some publishing in different places. And I'd had an email through at the weekend from Thrive Global saying that they were looking for childhood lessons, so things that you'd learned in your childhood, right? And I'd already written an article that I'd previously published, and they accepted previously published articles. So I submitted to Thrive, never submitted to them before, and within 2 hours they published me on their site, right? Which was fantastic, because it was completely different. It was a completely different place. I'd never done anything with them before, but what I ended up getting from that was different people connecting with me across LinkedIn. As a result of that, I've ended up doing a consultation for a company in Australia. So, and it's just different. It's like, it was something completely different. I didn't focus all my time on social. I've been, you know, heavy in with my clients, and I thought, and it's opened me up to that consultation now, and even maybe more potential work. And that's just by not going, oh, what can I put on Instagram today? What can I put on LinkedIn? What can I put? Do you know, it's just going, what's going to be right for me? And it resonated with them, and they're in Australia. So it's just that one thing that was different that ended up in revenue within 2 days of posting an article. So it does work. It works.
That's it. And it's about finding your perfect customer as well, which I know, Paul, you are really big on this side of things. And it is about knowing who you want to target. And you clearly knew that, Vicky, didn't you, when you submitted that article, and you saw a potential with that as your customer and that group of people, I guess, and that organisation, and it fit well with what you do and what you actually, the content of the article, and you could add value from that, I guess.
I think so, but I think like Thrive is a more, do you know what, Thrive is a place where a lot of people could write about a lot of things. So although I wasn't necessarily writing about my subject, I was writing about something that was, it was underlying of my subject. So it resonated on a personal basis, because the person that contacted me said, oh, I had a teacher that taught me something. By the way, I've just been recruited to work with this company. And that's where we ended up doing a consultation, because there was that shared something. Mm-hmm. So I think anybody could go and write for Thrive, and it does have massive leverage, because it's something different. So I would definitely recommend like looking at publications like Entrepreneur, Forbes, Huffington Post, all those places where you can become a contributor, because it does open up your audience, you know.
Would you mind putting a link, or at least the name of the Thrive, on the live chat, please, Vicky, so people can look that up? Thank you, that's great. But great piece of advice there. Right, so we've got about 10 minutes left of the session, guys. So we'll move on to the next question now. So we want to try and get through as many as we can. We've got a question from Julia, who is a design strategist in making remote placement year student design strategy and making. I think I've said that right. I'm reading off your email there, Julia. But there's 3 questions, but we'll just pick one for now. And I think you're quite eager there, but if we don't get a chance to go through them all, as I say, link in with both Paul and Tim, won't you, Julia? So let's have a look. What would be one piece of advice you would give your younger self if you were to enter the post-COVID environment? I mean, a lot of this is relating to the pandemic at the moment, but you don't have to necessarily. But then she's put with a focus on strategic profession. So what would be the one piece of advice you would give your younger self if you were to enter into the world you're in now, as opposed to when you did? Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
go on, Chapman.
It's an entirely stupid answer, so kind of apologies in advance, Julia, but I just ignore the pandemic. It's really kind of in the fact that, as you said before, nothing's changed. Yes, the cause is different. Nothing's changed. You know, we're only ever going to need 3 things for our business to grow. A list of the right people, and it's really important. Fiona mentioned that. You know, you want to find who are the people that will pay you what you want to be paid for doing the work the way that you want to do it. So kind of that's kind of without that, if you haven't, all of us, we haven't got a really clear picture of that. If you haven't got that, then you kind of, that's where you have to start. Who are these right people? What's going on in their world that we can affect? And then kind of how do we go and do it? And that is the same. I'm sorry, how do we get that message across? That is the same as it ever was. It's the same as it ever will be. And I think it'd be really easy if I was kind of brand new into marketing and kind of coming in now to kind of panic and kind of try and do something that actually doesn't need to be done. You know, work out who are the people that want to buy from you, and then go and talk to them like you talk to kind of anyone. Don't overthink it. Like, weirdly, when people start to reach out and kind of do content and copy, it's like them put like a 1950s bowler hat on. They start talking like a banker, not a metaphor, actual banker. And they just, it's not them. And I think Tim mentioned at the start, kind of with Gavin, is sound like you. And I think kind of, the big bit with this is that, yes, it's here. Yes, it's real. Yes, it's causing some massive pain, but the rules of marketing haven't changed. The stuff that you need to do to move a business forward and grow and make money haven't changed. That's it. And again, if I was talking about me, I'd get me to think more. I'm a really kind of impetuous person. I'd race ahead and do stuff. And I wish, looking back, I wish I'd taken some time to sit and think, that horrible cliche that kind of success leaves clues, but it really does. In every industry, in every walk of life, people have done stuff really well. And it's so easy to see. Look at what they've done, work out why they've done it, think deeply about, why has they done this in this style? And then work out, look, how does that translate into my business? And I think the key bit on that is this is not a copy and paste solution. You don't look at this kind of thing and think, what's the, I'll just do that in my business. You take the concept behind it. And just a really good example of this, you look at Compare the Meerkat, which is, genius. I'd love to have been in that meeting. Right, we're going to sell some car insurance. Small rat, go with me. He's Russian. You're going to love this. Now, that worked magnificently well. Then other people came to do it, and it's never quite got, like the Go Compare guy. It's never quite worked as well. And that's the kind of really interesting thing is that it's, you look for what's working and you work out why. You speak to people, you learn what is the thing they're trying to do. How does that translate into my business? But I think, in terms of that, what I tell myself, I would kind of think more, but particularly at the moment, almost ignore the world situation, which is, I know it's a daft thing to say, but it's the normal rules that apply.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would think. So I kind of echo it with less words what Chapman said, if I'm honest. But just like understand, as a strategist, right, your best work will come from having good clients. So don't take every piece of work, right? You will do your best work with clients who have the long-term vision and the foresight to properly implement a strategy, right? Because many businesses don't. That's it.
Can I just to add one more words? You know, if you're going into it, the biggest thing, not the marketing related thing, the thing that I wish I'd known is that as a business owner, you get to choose everything, including how much you charge. You know, when I first started off, I was charging 60 quid an hour, and I thought I'm king of the blooming world here. And then I met someone that was doing exactly the same thing, but he was doing it at 800 and something quid an hour. And it's you know, just a massive slap in the face. And, you know, most businesses will go too cheap too early. And there's not, you know, there's nothing wrong with either sector of the market here. But, you know, I was doing a thing I had £69 a month. And I spoke to a guy called Charlie Hutton was doing it less, but it's 700 quid a month. And we're doing exactly in a different market. And again, is a kind of a big lesson to all. Yeah, someone will always pay what you want to be what you want to charge, you know. And weirdly, it's no harder to charge £1,000 a day than it is to charge £100 a day. In truth, it's perhaps easier to charge £1,000 a day because there are less people doing it. But anyway, I'll shut up now.
Does that answer your question, Julia?
Yeah, they've pretty much exhausted this question. Thank
Exhausted it. You've exhausted it, guys.
Yeah, we'll do that.
With your words, chappers.
So many words.
But brilliant. Thank you, Julia. It's a really good question, actually, because it gives us insight into these two as well, this pair. We need to get to know them a bit more. Not me, I mean, I obviously know them, but those that have never met them before. And I think sometimes it's good to direct the questions at Paul and Tim personally as well. So that moves on to our final question with 2 minutes left from Joe. Joe would like to know where you two met, because she thinks that there's a funny story behind this.
We talked about this. Chapman's had to ring me to remember where we met, and it's kind of uneventful, if I'm honest. Like, I was just if anybody's been in Antenna in Nottingham before, there's when we were allowed in real life, there was a very dapper older gentleman called Mike Sylvester.
You always had the same table.
Like, always had the same table, like impeccably matched from socks to things. He introduced me to a chap in an equally splendid, what do you call it? That thick country material, tweed jacket, and it was him.
It's the same story as when I met Paul. I met Paul in Antenna as well.
There you go.
I thought there was like, it's disappointing.
No, we really don't.
We really should have thought of something. Yeah,
you should.
It's like the meeting at an adult entertainment club.
I just made something up.
Yeah. We met in the background. We were both in the same gladiators competition. And I met him in the changing room. I was like, what an impressive pugil stick, Paul Chapman.
See, that's what Paul.
Brilliant. So it all started at Antenna then, which is the creative hub of Nottingham. So I like this. It's good.
It is. Paul was talking to an egg sandwich when I met him first.
To an egg sandwich, right? Okay. Well, it's a good meeting point. That's our meeting point, Paul, isn't it? Whenever we catch up.
Yeah.
Even now, all these years later.
I love the fact. I mean, Joe and I have a very different story about how we met. It's just to make you feel good. Yeah, the lesson from all of that, which there just doesn't need a lesson, but I'm just trying to get away from the weird stuff I say. Hang around with good people. You know, this is why places like Antenna and that sort of thing, and RSViP, it's why it's good. Go and spend your time, you know, particularly, you know, kind of for the students on here as well, but for all of us, go and hunt out good people. Go and hang around and go and chat with them. You know, I mean, all, you know, kind of, you know, I mean, you know, Tim, me, Vicky, Joe, Fiona, you know, we've all just kind of kicked around for ages, and it's just kind of like-minded people sharing ideas, and it leads to just loads of good stuff, interesting conversation, great friendships, business. It just, you know, going to, you know, but treating that as important as, I don't know, learning pay-per-click or doing pay-per-click or doing ad or whatever it is. It's as legitimate a marketing tool as anything else. And, you know, and I think, you know, we've all kind of worked together ongoing, and it just comes from being in a place where you put yourself in a place where you can meet more of the right people.
Yeah, you get a lot of laughs along the way as well.
They've got a licensed bar, which helps as well.
Yeah,
So that's
Yes,
all
I do
for
think.
late night works. Yeah.
Well
So
said,
in
Liz.
summary, guys, yeah, I mean, dream team, isn't it? It's about surrounding yourself with like-minded people, the right people, aspirational, inspirational people, people that you can bounce off get creative with, creative talk, chat, and collaborate with as well. Like, this is where this strategy session has come from today, with us three doing this together, and then Vicky being on board and supporting it today as well, and joining in, and Joe, and and then us all meeting together. So I think this is where it all starts, isn't it? It's about your circle, your network. So get networking, guys. I'm obviously going to say that, but you can still network through the screen as well. So there's no excuse. There's loads of networking events that are still going, and they're still running online. So get yourself on Eventbrite. Come to our RSViP on the 26th of November as well. That's the last one of this year now. That'll be our Christmas edition. So if anyone's interested in finding out more about that, then contact me after this and I will send you more details. But we've reached 12 o'clock now. So that was an intense hour, wasn't it? I think we managed to squeeze in quite a lot there.
Fiona, can I just add something quick?
Yeah.
Just, I mean, for us, I must hear my voice. Please don't shut me up. I've got nothing else to go. It's easier for us, because we kind of all sort of know each other and that sort of thing. But I'm kind of thinking, kind of some of the guys who are not cheating, that sort of thing. Just reach out and say hello to people. Most people are actually really nice, and whilst you can't go and do an RSVIP thing now, and you may not want to go into like a normal networking room, or whatever it is, because you might not know, etc., etc. But most people are really nice. I get people that will just send me a message, and I will do to it. If I find someone interesting, I'll send a message on LinkedIn and just say, look, hey, how you doing? What about this? Someone I've never heard of, they just said, look, Paul, I've been watching some of your stuff. Do you mind if I ask you a question? Well, of course not. And again, and I think, this will be the difference, I think, for people coming out of jobs. It will come down to those relationships. And I think, so it's not kind of reaching out en masse, but if you see someone interesting, or you want to ask someone a question, or you just want to appear on their world, go and do it. I mean, the worst case scenario is that someone that you didn't know continues to not know you. But most of us, Tim aside, are just fairly reasonable folk, and kind of happy to help. And, it just helps with that next step as well. But anyway, I will promise I will shut up.
Any final thoughts, Tim?
No, it's good. I just echo the one of my answers actually to one of the sub questions that was submitted was maybe it was that what would you tell yourself thing, and it was something we've discussed in the podcast, Fiona, with you, and it's very echoey of your business, but your net worth is in your network, right? And most of my clients this year have come from referral, or people I know, or word of mouth, right? And it's very rarely been any different. So like network, because business relationships stick with you. That's it.
Yeah,
the end.
They do. So on that note, start somewhere and keep talking. Thanks for joining us, guys. Zoom wave.
Are we waving? I don't know.
Hey, Lisa.